Stuff you didn't pick up on when you were a kid. You'll find a world full of complex and often dark, problematic issues. In this video, we'll take a deep dive into some of the things you may have missed in the Flintstones when you were young. The Flintstones was based on the Honeymooners. If you're old enough to remember it, or you're a fan of 1950s television, you may have picked up on the fact that the Flintstones is remarkably similar to a popular comedy series called The Honeymooners. This early American sitcom ran from 1955 and featured a heavy-set lead character who was underemployed, lazy, loud, and boorish. Sound familiar? Fred Flintstone was clearly based on Ralph Cramden from The Honeymooners, but the similarities between the two shows didn't end there. The Honeymooners was another show tame enough for buttoned-up mid-century American TV, but it had similar adult undertones, making the show work on more than one level. Cramden drove a bus, while Flintstone drove a dinosaur in a quarry. Both men butt heads with their long-suffering wives, and both men are best of friends with the guy next door. Living next door to Fred was Barney Rubble, while Ralph's neighbor was a guy named Ed Norton. The two sounded exactly the same. Both shows see their lead couple threaten each other with physical violence. One of these days, Alice, boom, straight to the moon, Ralph would say. Bang, shoot, I'm going to the moon! We'd also see Fred threaten Wilma in a similar way. And while we never saw Fred hit Wilma, we often see Wilma hit Fred if he did something she didn't like. The animals were the mod cons. One of the most amusing conventions of the Flintstones was that the animals and other Stone Age creatures all served a purpose to fulfill the many household tasks that modern appliances might do. For instance, the elephant with a trunk full of water was used as a garden hose, the rabbit's ears used as TV antenna, and a swordfish worked as a kitchen knife. Sometimes we'd see the animal breaking the fourth wall and talking directly to the audience, usually about the cruel nature of the work they're forced to do. Think of the alarm whistle in Fred's workplace, the bird who has its tail yanked. It would seem animal cruelty ran deep in the Flintstones. While kids may giggle at some of the most ingenious ways animals were used on the show, adults will possibly be left questioning the morality of a society that uses beasts of burden in this manner. The show tackled issues of infertility. Despite the fact there are aspects of the show which may seem like they belong in the Stone Age, there were progressive elements. It may seem normal for kids these days to see people talking about major life issues in shows, but back in the 60s, this was something revolutionary. One issue that the cartoon tackled was Barney and Betty Rubble's inability to naturally conceive a child like the Flintstones. In February 1963, Wilma gave birth to Pebbles on the show. After this, the Rubbles spent a lot of time around the new baby and really wanted one for themselves. Since they can't seem to have a child for themselves, they end up wishing on a falling star. The following day, their wish